But I will say Pete Rose put out a video, I don't know if anyone saw, on the Shohei Ohtani situation, and somebody asked him about it, and he's like, if I could go back in time, I would have got myself an interpreter.
Come on, let's go!
Welcome to Circles Off, episode number 147, right here, part of the Hammer Betting Network, and presented by Pinnacle Sportsbook. We have a guest on today's episode and a wide variety of topics to get into. Some college sports betting, some baseball betting, some other stuff as well, which I think you'll find interesting. But before we do so, baseball is right around the corner. The Masters is right around the corner. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs coming up. We even got the rest of March Madness going on. If you're going to use one sportsbook in the space, I would recommend that you use Pinnacle Sportsbook. I've been betting there for a long time. They've been in business for 25 plus years for a reason. They're a highly trusted and respected sportsbook in the space. And if you're serious about betting and you're line shopping, you're going to find that Pinnacle has the best price in market many, many times. So make sure you check them out. If you're in Canada, use code HAMMER. If you are signing up, it supports us here on Circles Off. You must be 19 plus, not available in the US. And of course, as always, make sure you're playing responsibly. Our guest on this week's episode is a good friend of ours here at the Hammer Betting Network. He's a college sports bettor and soon to be pro baseball bettor as well, getting involved with the MLB and KBO. He's part of the team here at Hit the Books on YouTube at Hit the Books HQ. And he's building better odds over at betterodds.co. You can follow him on Twitter at keepbettingco, CO at the end. Corbie Craig joins us on Circles Off. Corbie, how's it going?
Yeah, guys, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. The first game of the year for me betting KBO was last night, 4:30 a.m. Well, I guess this morning. So perfect timing. Middle of March Madness. Can't have asked for a better time to join you guys. I've been asking Johnny for this show for too long, and we're here. It's going to be a fun one.
Welcome to the show. Did you win the bet?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I won. It was the Samsung Lions first half under, and I think that they didn't even score through 5. So pretty easy start to the year, which is always bad. You know, it's the gambler's fallacy. Like, I probably should have lost the first one. Now I'm feeling a little too hot here.
Crazy how the KBO names are brands.
The Samsung Lions.
I didn't know that at first.
I didn't know that until he just said it right now.
Did you know that? You didn't know that the names are all brands?
Yeah, I listen, man, like everybody went nuts during COVID with betting KBO.
Team names. I'm going to show you which one. Some of them you probably won't understand the brands. But where are the teams here? KBO list of teams. Okay. You guys keep talking.
This is the most interesting content we've ever recorded here. KBO list of teams.
Damn.
One of the more interesting things in KBO is like you'll see Americans who are decent pitchers in America go over to KBO and just absolutely shove. Last night was Casey Kelly, who I don't know his MLB career. I think he played at the Nationals, but I know him more from KBO. He is just an absolute menace in KBO. Like they played the Lions. The Lions are 2-0, look pretty decent, and they were like minus 350 favorites. The Dinos were. So it's just these American pitchers. They don't know what to do over there. They absolutely nuke every single team.
Was that was the first game of the year, and you have a minus 350 favorite in one of the games?
I think it was the second game of the year. The first one I've bet, but yeah, it was minus 350. There's another one that was 270. Like the top to bottom differential is just huge. Like baseball, usually, I mean, there's some really crappy teams, but you won't get that big of a differential. The top in KBO is much better than even the average in KBO.
Yeah, just because typically first game of the year or early games in the year, you have ace versus ace for both teams. It'd be hard to find like a discrepancy that's that large where one team, I mean, it's probably happened in MLB before, but you don't see it at that level. Minus 350 opening day.
Okay, I pulled them up. So during COVID beginning, I came to this realization. I was looking at these teams and I'd be like, oh, there's the Kia Tigers, like Samsung Lions, the LG Twins. And I was like, oh, it's hilarious. They're just like kind of the same as brands. I didn't really think anything of it. And then one day it clicked to me that these teams are all just owned by those brands.
Yeah.
And then those are the teams.
You know, I've placed like hundreds of KBO bets before just off of like people sending me bets and like, yeah, this is good, this is good. I never once thought about the brand names.
Yeah, a lot of these we definitely don't know the brands. But
Doosan.
Yeah.
The Doosan Bears. I don't know what that brand is, but it's
I don't know that. The Lotte Giants, but that's certainly a brand. I know a lot of these brands actually do own the teams, I believe. So, for example, the LG Twins, that's LG's team.
Yeah, well.
It's an interesting sport. Like the crowd appeal to Korean baseball is so much higher than American. Like I don't stay up to watch them at 4:30, but I have before. And like these games have student sections. They're crazy. I guess they just don't have any more primary sports. So Korean baseball gets them going.
They got some good MLB players coming over now as well too. So it's good to see sports develop in other regions.
I've looked up the Lotte Corporation. I still don't know what they do. So that's upon research. I'll figure this out at another point in time. Doosan is like some environmentally friendly, better future for humanity across the globe. I don't know how they're making money, but anyways, you live and you learn.
Lotte Corporation, industry, conglomerate.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. You know what they're doing? Business.
That's it. They're doing business.
Industry, business.
They're finding a way to make money, and they own a professional baseball team. That's all you need to know.
Exactly. So Corby, thanks for joining the show. Sorry that I guess it is long overdue. We'll start with small. By the way, we're doing the tweets that trigger us. So everyone that's tuning in right now, Corby's going to be on it. We got a couple bangers, gambling Twitter OGs that are going to be in here. We take shots at everybody.
Doesn't matter.
Nobody's safe.
Game. We're not picking.
But it's
people.
all in love. You just joke. It's just for entertainment.
The last one I kind of assumed was coming, so it was a good add to the end of the tweets that trigger us.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, we sent them in advance. Okay, Corby, your story into betting.
Yeah, this was interesting because I don't really enjoy this part of podcasts where people just like give their long spiel. So I'll make it short and quick. Basically, I was an okay athlete who made really good connections through the AAU circuit, through just sports in general. Lived in Alabama. Birmingham has a whole bunch of smaller colleges, all kind of condensed within each other. We saw UAB and Sanford in March Madness, which is like 5 minutes from each other, which is awesome. Go Blazers. Unfortunate, I was messaged you all about that game. But hey, the Blazers made it, and that's what matters. But yeah, I was graduate of UAB, wasn't great enough at sports to really do anything. Had some really small offers, but just nothing that really interested me because I just wasn't good enough to do anything with them. So I went to engineering school, UAB, in like a really low-level coding class. Like I had always been decent with numbers, but didn't really care. I just wanted to do like some kind of hard school. I at first wanted to do pharmacy, kind of got out of it, did engineering, just something hard to try to make myself learn. And I was in MATLAB, if y'all know MATLAB. I think it's C++. And my project was like to take player models and try to reenact or recreate the scores of all previous World Series champs. And was awful. I passed class by hard coding the project, basically. But it interested me because like I was getting these texts and like I have friends and like we'd all hang out. And a good example is like one of the players, a prominent player of one of the local teams was like, hey, I got hurt at practice yesterday. I'm not going to play Saturday. And this was like a really big deal and it wasn't on the news. I'm like, dude, if I had a player model, I could like project out what this guy's worth. I'm the only person that knows it. Like he was at my house playing 2K together. And I was like, this has to be useful information. So a little bit of learning the ropes, talking to people like y'all. I've been in this for what feels like forever. I think I started in 2016, which at this point just is, I think 25% of my life, which is crazy to think about. But just building out player models, building out connections, relationships, and continuing to fight that path. And as most people see it, I started out as college caps. I have focused on college basketball, college football, and we'll talk about that. But just seeing the edge of the connections you can make in this industry, essentially.
Yeah, so with the college sports side of things, you obviously have a little bit of a programming background. How much of the handicapping was like manually handicapping versus creating a model to project out games?
Yeah, I would say that I have a more keen eye in college sports than most, and I'm not sure that I can say that like I have an edge from my eye. I wouldn't say I'm that good, but I do enjoy and in college more than pro. There's a massive differential in scheme. Like in the NBA, you're going to see basically all teams running the same plays. Like guys get traded and know the assignments within the same day. In college, it's not that. You'll see completely different schema that in situations will match up much worse. So I do think I have a decent eye or knack for that. But from a betting standpoint, I never really bet until I built a player model and trusted what I was doing. I wouldn't say, like, when you have people on the show, they're like, well, I started gambling when I was 10. I come from essentially nothing. Like, my brother and I lived in the same bedroom of a trailer. Like, gambling has never been in my life ever. I only wanted to do it when I thought I had an edge. So the first probably 3 years were just me building these and watching games. And if they won, would be like a little check in my Excel sheet of like, hey, I know what I'm doing. And then when I thought I had an edge, that's when I started betting. So at this point, I would say mostly player base, a lot of situational schema, and obviously information.
When I first started Betstamp, we're talking like 2020, maybe September 2020. We had just launched the app. We were getting a bunch of people that were using the app, and at the time, our main focus was like guys who were posting pics and just making sure everything was transparent in there, which still is a large part of what we do. But at that point, that was like everything we were trying to do. It was the only way we were acquiring like customers and users and stuff like that. And this one, I would take as many calls as I could with anyone who was like using the app, posting all their bets. Like, I'm like, yeah, let me know what feedback, like, what do you guys want? Because we were still developing a lot of stuff. So I'd take like maybe a call a day with someone who was using and just ask them a bunch of questions. And then this one guy I took a call with, and he's like, yeah, I just started betting. So my friend told me about this guy's Discord. The college caps? I'm like, no, I don't know the college caps. And by the way, everybody that was talking to me, I was talking to, all these users I was talking to for like 3 weeks straight were just being like, oh, this guy's posting his picks on Action Network. And then I go check out his profile. I'm like, oh, this guy's the biggest fraud of all time. Like, it was all losers. Every guy was losing. I didn't find a single guy that was winning. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, I buy this guy's picks. I buy this. I talked to people who literally bought Vegas Dave's picks, who bought like all these guys' picks. Then this one guy's like, oh, the college caps, this kid, he's in college, he like knows all the players, and he posts all these picks. College caps, you got to go in his Discord. I made a Discord account just to join this kid's Discord because I'm like, okay, let me check this out. Even though I was 99.9% sure it was just a fraud losing better. I was 99.9% sure because I had 30 straight in a row. I joined this guy's thing, and he's literally like explaining to his users in a rough form what CLV is, which without even saying the term CLV. He's just like, oh, I got this number and like this is now what it's at. He's like actually doing stuff legit. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? He's actually beating close on a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of news-based stuff. He's like, oh, this guy's going to be out. I'm like checking with friends that I know that bet professional. Like, oh, did you know, like, when did you bet this game? Did you know that this player was out? And they're like, no, we didn't know that just hit market. And like he had it before. And I'm like, oh, okay, this kid's actually doing some stuff. So I messaged him. We had I remember like a long chat. I remember exactly where I was actually. It was years ago. And then I'm like, this guy's all right. This is the first, and it was the first guy that since I started Betstamp that I talked to. I'm like, oh, this kid could actually do something in the space, and he's actually legit. So respect, bro. And we've been friends ever since.
Two things on that. First, I appreciate the compliment. I pride myself in the idea that like I don't say that I like am a pro by any means, especially at that time. I was more like tried to put myself as like, hey, this is what I'm actively learning, and I think that it'll provide value to you. So that's awesome. That more important, I also remember that exact call because you're the first person who on socials had reached out to me and be like, hey, like I don't want to message, let's hop on a call. And I was like, cool. It's so easy to be a person behind a keyboard. I had never hopped on a phone with anybody from this endeavor. And this wasn't my primary source of income. I was in engineering school. I think we called like in finals week in the middle of me studying for a test, the only class I've ever failed. So I was like in the middle of I was like, dude, thermodynamics kicked my ass, but whole different story. Yeah, Johnny, you called in and I was like, I remember because I knew Betstamp had high hopes, and I was like, yo, here's the issues I see. And like the whole call was just me absolutely it wasn't dogging, but I was like, yo, it's great. It has amazing upside. Change this. And then like, and you just listened for like 30 minutes. So you're like, there was no like, we'll look into it. And the very first thing I remember is like 2 weeks later, they were all done. And I was like, all right. Because I told you, I was like, I don't want to switch. I have so much tracked and third partied on this other side. It was Action, but I paid people to ensure that like, it wasn't wrong, which obviously isn't the right way to do this, but now we see in hindsight. And I was like, yo, if you'll change this, like I'm giving away documentation of basically 1,200 wagers at that time. And I was like, if you change all of these, I will switch. And instantly it was done. And I was like, cool. And I've used it ever since. So love Betstamp. I literally check it every day. It's the easiest way to check odds if you want to go really quickly and click and see what the best price for a market is.
Wow, Johnny, you were so desperate in the early days that you were just just making all switches for everyone on
Vegas Dave.
You know what it was? It was so I bet a specific way, and I wanted my stuff tracked a specific way. So I built that exact thing.
Yeah.
But you slowly come to realize when you build a product, especially when it's something like tracking, that everybody has a slightly different way of doing things, and then you have to be open to hearing other people's advice on that. Obviously, you can't do every single change, but I remember talking to you about it too, and you're like, okay, probably needs like these things in here. And then slowly but surely, it became a good tracking app that now is like super usable to track. Before, at the time, it was like, okay, this is only good for this one way.
Right.
So yeah, you have to, especially when starting.
Of course.
I was desperate for users. I was gonna input all 1,200 of your picks myself to backtrack.
Yeah,
No,
I was
kidding.
like, I was like, I can show that there's documentation, but like, I really don't want to add these. Like, that would just be that would take away validity of what you've built. I'm not saying it was bad at all. I'm more saying like the ability to take social input is awesome, and I think for any kind of business, like we've talked business a million times over, any kind of business, the ability to listen to others and make adjustments and not say you're the right one in this situation is huge, and it's what's made betstamp what it is now.
So go ahead.
So when I first, sorry, I was deviating here just a little bit to betstamp story time, but when I first joined betstamp as well, I did do a lot of the same calls. One of the most frequent things from people was they would get onboarded, they would join, they'd post picks for like 3-4 weeks. A lot of them were, scammers, generally speaking. They would lose, and then they reach out to me and be like, "Hey, Rob, we have a call." And they're like, "Hey, I have these picks from the last 2 years where I won like 186 units. Could we get those into the app as well?" And it was like all these people that were looking to basically start at like plus 100 units. And obviously it hurt us in terms of acquiring users in the early going, but it kept the authenticity of getting people to start from scratch. That was tough though, when like you're onboarding people regularly, and then within the first 1 to 2 months, they realize like, I'm not a winning bettor. And like they couldn't come to this knowledge beforehand, or they just like left it out to the side.
That's why, like, honestly, we don't focus as much on like the public pick tracking and stuff, because the reality is like people join for 1 month, like Rob said, they lose, and they're like, oh well, can you just put my record as this, because like trust me bro, I got all these picks and I have it on Action Network. And now even, I mean, there's other platforms in the space. The main one that you can sync your books would be like our main competitor. If you look at anyone who's posting on there the winning record, you can sort and then just see another thing that says bet this for a friend. Yeah. And you can just tag that and it hides it from your account. So these guys have these accounts which are fully linked, regulated books. Like it links their FanDuel account, for example.
But they can hide plays.
And then it'll show that they're up like 37 units, and then you click into the thing and you could see their bet for friend down 46 units. Like, okay, yeah, buddy, your buddy lost 46 units, you're up 36.
Your buddy happened to go 1-29 in his last 30 picks, but you shot 60%. Pretty convenient.
Exactly. So no, cool. But this is Corbie's pod. We'll get back into the NCAA stuff. More recent, I guess. How you doing on this year's tournament?
Yeah, it's good. I really don't bet a ton of tournament. Obviously, I had to bet the first round. My Blazers were in it. I actually didn't bet anything big there other than first half under, which was one of the luckiest bets I've had in a minute. I think that live went 10 points over. There's just a bunch of fouls, a bunch of injuries early. And I texted y'all. I was like, listen, get ready. Halftime's coming. Hop on my Blazers. And
you did.
I'm not sure if y'all pulled the trigger, but they did in fact cover, because great teams do inevitably cover.
They lost the game, but they did cover.
Yes.
Good teams cover. That's true. So what are you betting mostly these days right now? So you mentioned KBO. You prepping for the MLB season?
Yeah, it's prep for the MLB. I usually stop in Madness. It's fun. Like there's just not a ton of volume. Like relative. Also, there are things that are just out of my wheelhouse. I don't trust like the late game situations or whatever it is. So I find more use case prepping MLB, prepping KBO. KBO conveniently starts like 4 days after March Madness, which is just the perfect crossover of like I don't really miss out on much. I bet some of the smaller tournaments, CBI and IT, in situations, but really it's just prep for MLB. MLB is the grind of all grinds, and so can't really prep enough for it and be prepared, but feel pretty good about this year. Going to do more. I think that you can get into props markets more in baseball right now, and I feel pretty comfortable in the fact that I think I have a winning edge in player props. I guess we'll see. But those major markets are tough. Like even when you see really big groups betting money lines hours before they're moving 5-6 cents on really respectable actions. So it's just tough. I think there are easier apples to be picked, but that's the grind, and I'm excited to try again.
Yeah, you're an interesting person to ask this question to, because you have experience in betting both. But over the past couple months, we've done some pods, and a lot of it's been centered around limiting players, how to avoid getting limited. And it's been discussed and talked about that nowadays, like the college basketball market, it's a lot smaller in terms of limits, in terms of what you can get down, generally speaking. But there's this player props market that's booming, and there's been some suggestion that you're actually more likely to be able to sustain your account nowadays by betting on player props than by actually betting full market college basketball sides and totals. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, from a side standpoint, I would say probably not. I think sides are still relatively efficient, like no matter what the market is. At least I would like to believe that in my heart. From a total standpoint, I mean, if you've watched this market move on overnights, you have to agree. Like we saw a 10 points. We saw a 10-point swing overnight a month ago, which a market should be greatly efficient. Also, if you're a sports book, like, who do you think's sharper? Somebody at 2 p.m. day of betting a player prop, or an overnight person betting Wichita State versus who SMU's total at 139.5. Like it screams, I kind of know what I'm doing. I think that if you didn't, you'd be betting that early. We kind of talk about that in a minute. I've been in both camps of betting overnight, betting day of, and I think there's pros and cons to both. But I would agree, like it would make sense in my head if you're betting overnight totals in particular and just absolutely nuking market, then it would be a really easy way for these sports books who want to limit people who have any clue of what they're doing. It would be a really easy red flag for them, and they want to take as quick of a red flag as they can nowadays.
For me, by the way, it's mostly and anybody listening who's using our player props product, thank you guys for the support. We had amazing support on that. For me, it's more the closing line stuff. So as we've talked to with a bunch of different guests here, like the books will have obviously like a report to see who's beating the closing line. If you're not beating the closing line on like a college basketball side, it's most likely you're losing. I'm not saying everyone's losing. You can do it on purpose, and there's some people that are going to have the edge, but highly likely you're losing. And then if you're beating the closing line, they're going to nip that right away, most of the books. With player props, it's so easy to beat them and not beat the closing line, especially if you're putting it at post. So you will still beat close during the day and stuff if you're betting, and that's going to be roughly the same. But if you're betting at post, there is no closing line. There's no way that these guys can just go reference another thing and be like, yeah, like no one has it up. No one has it. It's so easy for all these sports books to just go look and see what the closing odds were on. You basically even just use ESPN. You can find it. You can just go search it. Yep. So that's I think the main difference there is it's just harder for them to actually include that in a report. And then they don't have the calculators built at this moment to say like, if this line was 19.5 under minus 125, is that much more than 18.5 plus 100? Like, where is that? So they also don't even know what the exact calculation was. Whereas with, like I said, the sides and totals, -3, minus 110, that's obviously going to be significantly better than, -6, minus 110.
Right.
Very easy to tell.
Much easier to tell.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally agree. Go ahead, Corbie.
One thing on that, I think it's funny, like I was just in Circa and I talked to all these people, like first off, we don't have to go on a debate, but it's funny to me that there's still even a closing line debate. Like I think that there are enough bookmakers who will like openly say like that is the main tracking reference, and fully agree. Like it's easier to track it versus totals. Obviously there's more things that are also important, but like I've many friends who are on the other side of the counter, like, yeah, this is the primary metric that we're tracking. Also, one thing you referenced just then that I think is just insane to think about. People say like sports betting is such a saturated market, et cetera, et cetera. They don't even have software to project closing line of a player prop yet, is what you said. And I agree. And it's just crazy to think we're still at a spot, like an infancy spot, that you can't even project like a player props closing line. That just sounds like a sports book. Their job is to take these bets. They should be able to project. It just blows my mind. And so I agree. Like player props probably can get swept under the rug a little easier, especially than college basketball totals, which you can see if this move 3 points, like you're probably going to win. And I do think there's other factors involved, obviously, in the totals that you kind of bring up to make people not close. But from a side standpoint, yes, if you have -4 and closes 7, like you're in trouble there.
Yeah, I think the first point you made is a good one. I mean, we've interviewed a lot of bookmakers on this show as well in terms of like what they're looking for in terms of sharp accounts. We've had conversations that have not made it to air, and it's pretty. I mean, there's obviously other factors, but every single bookmaker we've talked to is like, yeah, closing line value. If someone's regularly beating it, we know that person's going to be a winning player in the long run. I don't know why people still dismiss it.
It literally just became mainstream over the past like 3 years, by the way. I think like probably a lot of the guys in the community bringing it up all the time is what caused that. But it just became mainstream because it never used to be a thing where like bookmakers would openly be like, yeah, if you're beating the close, you're doing this. They used to just like limit based on winning and market. I'm not talking last 3 years. I'm talking last like 8 years.
Right. But for me to like, I think sports bettors inherently struggle with sample size. So you can tell like a new sports bettor, you want to beat the close, right? And then they do it 3 bets in a row and they lose all those bets. And like, yeah, I personally know people like this, and they're like, oh, what's going on? Like every time I beat the close, I lose and whatever. And it's just like, they think that by beating the close, it's going to guarantee a winning bet. And they're missing the point, right? They're just missing the point of if you do this over a large sample, you're very likely to win. It's not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination, but the more, trials you build up, basically, the more likely you're going to have success if you're beating the close. And I think people just get so fixated on the small sample size, and it gets perpetuated by a lot of content creators out there as well, who are like, oh, here's my CLV trophy or whatever. This line, I bet them -3 and they're -4.5 now. You're like, there's like a negativity around it, so to speak. And it just feels much more painful when you have that spread, you beat by a lot and it loses.
I should get one of the devs here to build some sort of calculator, because this would be pretty sweet. But I think one of the biggest things that people mistake within this industry right now, and this is actually not amongst the newer people, it's typically amongst like mid-level people who are like somewhat winning and maybe have an edge, is they're misunderstanding truly how easy it is to lose money over a small sample size. If you have a small edge and a small sample size, the amount at which you can lose money it's there. Like you can go on such a cold run, you can have such a bad week, like it's all within variance. But at the same time, they're also underestimating and completely undervaluing how hard it is to lose when you have that same edge compounded over multiple bets. So when you look at it, it's like the amount that you can get down, if you can get down 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bets a month, and I know this is insane. We're not talking here like everyone's going to be able to do this, but if you can get down 1,000, 3,000 bet sample size at a big edge, for example, a 4 or 5% edge, it's going to be very unlikely to actually lose in the short run. However, the contrary, like, man, you're betting 10 bets, like you could lose all 10.
Of course.
You can lose, certainly, you probably, I'd love to get the calculator. I'd love to just get a calculator that people can play around with.
Binomial distribution.
Yeah.
If someone looks up a binomial distribution calculator online, you can plug and play like your number of trials, the probability of success, and like the number of successes you have.
I usually ask you pull them up on the pod.
I mean,
like chances of losing is this.
Yeah, it's just a simple distribution.
I've got a fun question for y'all so that we don't go into the CLV debate. I was talking to Barry the other day about this. In baseball season last year, I went on my coldest run of just consecutive losses. Do either of you know the most amount of games you've lost? Like, let's just say the last year. I lost 19 in a row. And it was obviously, like, I think season closed like 3.5% against close. So very unlikely to happen, and yet it does. Like, as you're talking about, it can happen on a small sample a million times over. 19 that's my new record all time. So it's unfortunate, but it happens.
No good.
I don't know the exact amount of loss. I remember my worst month ever, which I can probably pull up pretty quickly here, which was December 2021 NHL. Oh my God, man. It was like just a bloodbath.
Couldn't win.
There was I probably lost 15 games in a row in a stretch where the odds were pretty close to 50-50 on some of those picks. And a lot of them made it increasingly worse because they were like post-regulation, overtime shootout losses. So that's probably the worst stretch for me. I don't want to relive it. I was going to pull up the numbers now. I actually don't want to relive it because it's such a terrible month on it. But yeah, I mean, it happens. It's going to happen. Like I had a week this year I didn't win an NFL bet. That's miserable. Like what are you going to do? Such is life. You just got to take it on the chin and move on and realize that, like, yeah, 8-game sample, sure, I could lose every bet.
I know, it's tough. But at the same time, yeah, you keep compounding over and then you should be good in the long run. And at the end of the day, like, I always say this, but it literally all evens out. Like, we have to just know that you're going to earn a certain percent in the long run if you're doing things right, and it evens out. Yep. But just because you have a 4% edge, you bet $100. That doesn't mean you make $4 on every bet. You make $100 today, you lose 100 tomorrow. You make 104, you lose 96. At the end of the month, you make 4%, make 3%, make 5%, make 1%, whatever your edge is, whatever market you're betting, and that's the game.
Yep, totally.
So anybody who runs too hot, by the way, and then lets it get to their head, that's like where you actually get into trouble betting, because you're like, oh, I'm running high. You don't even think about it in terms of like, oh, I'm at a 18% ROI. This is never, ever going to sustain. So it's impossible for me to have ever won at this. That's bank that and expect moving forward, you're not going to earn at that rate.
Worst thing that can happen to a brand new bettor, fresh out the gate, is they go on a hot streak.
With parlays too.
Like absolute worst thing imaginable, because they get a taste of winning and they'll always think back to that. Even when they start to lose, they'll be like, what was I doing when I won like those 10 games in a row, right? Like what? And the answer is like, you're doing the exact same thing you're doing now. You have no edge and you just happen to coin flip your ways to wins. But yeah, could go on forever about this topic. But Corbie, you mentioned that with college basketball, you've bet both into the game day market and the overnight market. I'm curious because you mentioned like very different pros and cons to both. What are you mainly doing now in college basketball pre-tournament throughout the regular season?
Yeah, there's times where I bet overnight. I would say in a previous life, like a few years back, I was betting it probably more than I should have. And live and learn, you notice. And I've got ghosted from too many accounts from it. I guess quote unquote limited, but just the much less fun side of limitation. Yeah. And so I've been through that and kind of realized like morning of, like if I move half a point, 1 point, I'm really not that worried about it. If you trust your number enough, especially I'm betting totals for the most part. So like if you're betting a college basketball total from 138.5 to 139.5, and you just don't see value anymore, then it's a small edge on a market that probably has a ton of variance. Also, we talked about this in the pre-show, but like there's indicators like the 8 a.m. Central limit increase. Like you can get a decent amount down before stuff actually starts popping. Like you see the groups betting 8:30 Central. I think we all kind of know who they are. The 8:30 to 9 o'clock space is kind of like the big space of, it seems like everything is moving. So usually make sure I'm prepped and ready by 8 a.m. Central and get ready to fire on anything that I think is good. Also, like a lot of this was a worry, and the reason I would bet overnights is like, I'm getting so much information that I don't want it to slip through the cracks and be like noted that a guy isn't getting on a bus or isn't hitting a flight. But over the amount of time that now I've got to see a whole bunch of information, like it just doesn't, especially in these smaller markets. I have an example here, but in these smaller markets, like people are getting announced out and nobody even cares. Like an example I put in my notes is Montana's best player got hurt in a game. It was Money Williams got hurt in a game this year. I think can't remember who they're playing, but their next game was Weber State. He got hurt in the game. He missed basically the whole year. So like it wasn't a question on is he going to play. He was really hurt. He's out for sure. And you go look at any player model on the internet and they make Weber State -4. Market comes out, Weber State -4. And it's like, dude, he's definitely not playing. He's not listed injured on KenPom. He's not listed injured on anything. And he's out. And so like 20 minutes before game time, you could still bet Weber -4, and they won by 30 because Montana's best player, who was their entire offense, wasn't in the game. So I used to probably put too much weight on the idea that I had the information that nobody had, and it was going to move 10 points when Money Williams was announced out. But in all actuality, no one knows who Money Williams is, and I was just a little over my head to jump the gun. So at this point, I'm kind of betting market closer to post, I would say, when it is information stuff.
Yo, straight up, no one who's betting like actual money, no one who's betting real money, the biggest groups, know who any college basketball player is. Think about that.
Well, yes and no. Like for
the originators will know. The originators who they might be using will know.
Yeah.
And then that'll be baked into the numbers. Yeah. But the guys actually clicking the buttons, they don't know. It's impossible to follow all that. It would not be possible. College basketball, baseball, football, hockey, everything.
Yeah.
I will say from the originators I've talked to, like in these groups, they really don't know either. They're really good numbers guys. And so like when I talk schema or like I'll talk to these guys originators because I just love that game. Like that's the game I want to play. If there was nothing else, I want to be able to make my own numbers in basketball, and I love watching every single player. Like if I wasn't doing this, I would be watching college basketball right now. And so like when I talk to them, they don't even know. And like I'll be like, yo, what did you make this number with Money Williams out? And they're like, is he out? And I'm like, yeah, he tore his ACL 2 days ago. How do you not know this in your models? And so I think that a lot of people give a lot more praise to the college basketball market. There are efficient markets, don't get me wrong, and I do think college basketball for the most part is. But like these Weber State game 2 of conference play, just I'm not confident that they are.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for me, just like my inner circle of college basketball bettors. So I don't originate college basketball anymore, and I don't bet it at a large scale. Let's put it at that. But I do know people who do, and like their bread and butter. And, two of my friends are very, very good college basketball originators. Both of them track privately on betstamp, but they both have accrued like a very solid ROI doing so, and they have fundamental differences on like the value of a key player within a team. And one of my friends, he's I don't want to misquote him here, but he's almost like, this guy's out, it doesn't matter. Like, it's actually not going to matter, because what you're going to see is like an uptick from effort level from everyone else on the team for that one particular game. Now, if he's out for an extended period of time, then it's a different story. Then there's another guy that I know, and I see them argue all the time about this, both winners, who's like, you're an absolute idiot. Like, how can you say that this guy who takes 25 shots for this team per game at high efficiency is not going to matter in this specific game? And I honestly notice this a lot, even when the stuff is more widely reported in terms of injuries in college basketball, like kind of a bounce back and forth, maybe an overmove one way off the information and bouncing back another. I find the college basketball market to be really interesting, because it's limited in the sense that it's not, you can't bet what you can on the NBA and whatever. There's tons of originators all competing in the same spot. You get a lot of really quirky line moves.
Yeah, fully agree. There are a few things on this. First off, I think that both of them have potential to be right, which sounds crazy because it's the exact opposite of theories. But college basketball isn't a singular market, I would say. That's where their heads are getting bat, is like there's major markets, there's sub-major markets, and then there's extras. But the sub-majors, like as we talked about, Money Williams not moving, is huge. But in these major markets, I would agree that the first move is probably too much in most cases. Like we see Kevin McCullough out. It moves down Sanford 6 and then moves up Sanford 7. And Sanford, I don't think Sanford covered that game. I think it ended 5. But like probably too much of a move at the start. McCullough's out. They have a 4-star behind. But there's times, the biggest thing with basketball, college basketball over the pros, and kind of what I was talking about earlier, is like there are players who don't matter, but when out, they change the entire scheme of a game. So example off the top of my head, like 3 years ago, Loyola Marymount, this is the worst example, and I'm sorry for people fall asleep while I talk about this, but Loyola Marymount's center, 7'1", he averaged probably, just guessing, 3 points a game. Not good. 7'1". With him being on the court, he forces them to play slower. He can't get down the court fast enough. He's not very good, but like they run an offense that's probably 200th in the nation in tempo. 3 minutes into the first game, he gets hurt. They put in a 6'8" center, and now they are one of the 50 fastest teams in the nation. So if you were using a player tracking model, his number would not be worth that much to the overall basis of the game. But they just turned Loyola from like one of the nation's slowest teams to one of the nation's fastest teams. So I think less on what does this player bring from a shots and points per game, more what does it bring to the overall scheme of a team. Like Kansas, when they lose McCullers, really doesn't change identity as much as people probably gave credit for. He is a great basketball player, and inevitably they needed him for a team like Gonzaga, but I don't think that they have to change scheme. But then you go look at somebody like Tyler Kolek, who was out. I know y'all saw the oblique thing for Marquette. That line moved 3.5 points. And though that sounds crazy, like that's not enough. Tyler Kolek is their entire offense. He runs all the sets. He calls the plays. Like he is the team. So he's worth more than 3.5. And I understand player models can only go 3.5 at that point. But he was worth at least 5. And if it was move 5, I'd probably say that that's too much. But at the time, I think you could get like Creighton 6.5 with Kolek out, which was a great price. I think they ended up winning by 8.
One of the interesting things for me, just to keep going on this one topic, and then we'll move on, is that other major sports, MLB example, right? Like I'm not as well versed in the MLB as I used to be, but Mike Trout is out for one game. Okay, you're gonna have another replacement outfielder that comes in, but with like a pretty large sample of stats usually, whether it's from this season or the previous season, you pretty much have a general idea, no matter what he's worth. In the NBA, you see an injury, right, and everyone can kind of project how the minutes are gonna change. Maybe not with certainty, but there's a good idea of like, this guy's going to get 5 more minutes a game. With college basketball, you have so many guys who get little minutes. They're like maybe a true freshman. You have no sample. And now all of a sudden they're like elevated into a starting lineup. And I think because of that, you can get so many different projections on that particular player. You might look into his past and be like, well, this guy was recruited at this level or whatever. Or maybe you just talk to people within the school. This guy's amazing, whatever. He's not. But I think that's what makes college basketball, especially when you have that many teams, in a sense, tougher, but also can open up like another edge just based off of knowing that information.
Yeah, some would say tougher. I would say the exact opposite. Easier if you're willing to put in the work. Now, is it worth the effort? Like, you can't bet as much as like, I mean, if you're somebody betting just bukus of money, it's probably not worth your time to go through all 365 teams. But like how you say, if you have the ability to project easily what a player is worth and the amount of minutes they're going to play, so can sportsbooks. And so that's how I see it. I see it as the more variance, the better for me if I'm willing to put in the effort. Like an example, Seventh Woods at North Carolina. Seventh Woods is a 5-star athlete. We've all seen his highlight tape. Saw 0 minutes North Carolina. No one ever got hurt. He never joined. He never got to play. And if he did, he's a 5-star athlete and he would have done great. And that's just something that would have not been baked in because, I mean, third year there, he hadn't seen the floor, and yet he was a 5-star athlete. And so it's just, are you willing to like pay attention to the underlying metric of if a player is good, which it's just being an extreme nerd, or you could have an Allen Boston notebook this big and then you could get it done.
Well, we said a while back on an episode that if you do watch the games, you could get an edge from watching the games. And we did at the time say it was more for college football and basketball. This is a prime example here. Like, people know in the NFL who the players are. In the NBA, certainly people know who the players are that are going to get minutes when certain players are out. But, yeah, NCAA, basketball, who knows, bro? That's just a straight crapshoot.
That his example of Loyola Marymount Center, right?
Yeah, and totals and stuff.
On the
you don't know.
live total in that game, even if you didn't bet it pregame, if you were to just watch the beginning of that game and be like, wow, this team is moving up the court much quicker because they don't have this 7-foot center that needs to get up and down the court, like that's an edge to be had. I just don't like. And question for you, Corbie, I'm not sure if you're involved in live markets. I wonder how attainable that is, just because there's so many games going on at once. Like, how many
screens you need is what you're asking?
Well, the Rex Buyer setup, right? Where there's like 16 screens on the wall or whatever. But I don't...
Probably need at least 8 screens to take advantage.
Yeah, but even then, can you pay attention to that much in that time, right?
No. I would say y'all had Bud Elliott on once. I think I talked about it a lot, and I think he had a really good point. It's like, you don't watch every game. You don't watch every possession. You don't really care. You have your clustered circle. So, like, I know if St. John's is playing and Posh Alexander gets hurt, Butler now, but Posh Alexander gets hurt, no matter who their backup point guard is, they play slower. Posh Alexander brings the ball up faster than anybody in the nation. So I'm not watching them. I just have the game on, and if I see Posh gets hurt, like, their backup center might not be a differential in speed. So you have these circled. Like Loyola Marymount, I have the 7'1" center circled because their backup is 6'8" and should probably be a small forward, not a center. So you have these circled. It's cluster injuries that would completely impact the team. You don't actually watch. I have 3 screens, so three is plain sufficient for me at least.
What are the live injury feeds like for college basketball? Like, because at NBA you have like Underdog, right? And it's just like something happens, the world knows about it right away.
But that's just because of the popularity of the sport. That's because people are legit watching that and then can feed it. Same with NFL. You'll get notifications. For college, it's the same as you know how you're saying, oh, these games like people aren't watching. Some of these games you can't even watch. Like we're in Canada, obviously, so we don't have good college coverage. But like some of these games, you got to grab a stream, and especially for college football, it looks like they're playing in front of like barely any fans.
Dude, yeah, I'm sorry for a general rant here in Canada. I used to work for The Score, and like we used to cover March Madness to the absolute max, like in and out of games, whatever. Dude,
the current coverage is the worst coverage. Don't even get me started. I could not find one game this
week because there was curling showing on one channel instead of the. Like, what was...
They go late. Okay, so you're going to get a rant, Corbie. I know you can't even imagine what goes on here in Canada. Anyone who's from Canada is going to be knowing exactly what we're talking about. The Thursday game, the first game of the tournament, they went late to the game on coverage. We were watching Leo Routens on the screen talk, and they're like, we're going to now join the game. And they missed the tip-off. It was 2-0 when they went over in the first game. This is how bad the coverage is. They constantly swap around the TVs. So you're constantly, if you have multiple TVs, you got to recalibrate. And you're missing games that are actual real games unless you have whatever the online is, TSN Plus.
Yeah, that's a joke, man.
What a joke, bro. And there's 5 TSNs. There's 5
channels. There's one curling. Show like fucking motor racing, like some guys on motorcycles. I'm like, what is happening?
There's never more than 4 games on at a time through March Madness.
The best news is Mad Dog from ESPN said curling is the 3rd hardest sport of all sports. So at least you get to watch some curling action.
It's really not. It is. I've been curling within the last month. There is a steep learning curve. Don't get me wrong. Your first few shots are going to be like, You know, you're not going to have the touch. But over time, you get your better balance. You start to learn. So
I don't think it's that hard because a friend of mine does men's league curling once a week. He's been doing it for years, but it's just once a week. And his team ended up playing against like a pro team. I think he played one of the guys. They obviously lost, but just the fact that you could play against them already shows
listen, there's no one who plays curling that's watching this because it's like exclusively 60-year-olds plus, and our age demographic on Circles Off is much lower than that for the most part. But I will say, I'm not slandering curling. It's actually very fun to play, and I'd highly suggest if you've never done it to at least try, because it's really fun. It's like it's a fun team game. Like, it's great. But come on, man. Like, this is March Madness. You paid for the rights for March Madness in Canada. We don't need to see the preliminary round of the Briar or whatever the hell.
You ever watch SportsCenter after? Now? You ever try to watch SportsCenter? Maybe Zach has. You watch SportsCenter. You're like, oh, let's watch some college basketball highlights. First thing that comes up is going to be NHL. Fine. We'll go through NHL. Yeah. Then they go Raptors. Okay. All good. Give me the tournament now. Then they're like, oh, some random, what's that hockey league? I don't even know what the league is. Do you know what hockey league I'm talking about? TSN bought the rights to it. Some random men's hockey league, but it's like below OHL coverage. They play that. Then you get the Briar, Tim Horton's Briar, which is curling. Then they showed Nemhard, just because he's Canadian. They'll show his one game. Then back, commercial break, then Caitlin Clark, and then finally you're like, all right, let's get into the number one seed facing another team. It's ridiculous. 40 minutes in.
I'm going to call you out on that because they would have put the Purdue highlights off the top.
For Zach Edey.
For
yeah.
Zach Edey. They wouldn't have put
I was probably watching the day when Edey didn't play the night.
Or someone on Gonzaga is Canadian as well.
No, Nemhard is on, I don't even forget what team he's on.
Nemhard, he's on Gonzaga now, isn't he? His brother was also on Gonzaga. They're both from Aurora.
Corbie would, they're born and raised Aurora. Yeah, so they'll play like one or two Canadian guys that are in the tourney, and then it's done.
That's it. You don't get the rest of that.
What a bad rant.
I can't even think. It's just agitate. We haven't even got to tweets that trigger us yet. This is like, I guess, executive
every year, man.
Media decisions that trigger us every year.
And they did used to have incredible coverage on the Score. 100% right.
Yep. Corbie, when we post this video, whether it's to YouTube or like a little teaser clip to Circles Off HQ on Twitter, there's going to be some replies immediately that are going to be like, why you have Corbie Craig on? This guy is blowing up edges for other people. He's stealing a bunch of stuff. This came up in the Right Angle Sports Discord a few years ago.
Is that Discord still going?
I don't know the details.
I don't know. I think it might be toast.
I don't know what's going. I don't want to speculate as to what's happening with that Discord, but I do want to give you the opportunity to talk about that a little bit. First and foremost, what are people referring to by eroding the edges for other people, and why is there a subsection of gambling Twitter that thinks you're a scumbag?
Yeah, it's listen, everybody has their own opinion, and I respect anyone's opinion, but I at least get a chance. I was put in the RAS Discord to give my chance to explain, and was instantly banned, so it's okay. So actually,
tough break.
Who banned you? They have some notorious banners.
I have no clue, but I will say my second place for minus EV was going to be Cal Poly spreads, but I didn't want to go that low. They were notorious for betting Cal Poly spreads, but no. So basically. So basically, a few years back, I'm going to play a fine line here because I don't want to talk about the quote-unquote edge. But a few years back, there was a guy that came up to me. He was in my Discord. He paid for my Discord. He posted this edge in every community that I've ever seen, Discord-wise. RAS, me. There were a few groups that he was posting these plays into. And he came up to me and he's like, hey, can you make a model and backtest this opinion I have? I was like, yeah, man, of course. Like, it'll take me a few days. It's kind of a lot of effort. I got you. Ran it, backtested it, and it was decent. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. It was a fun bet that y'all have seen before. And this is an opinion or a theory that seemed cool. And I was like, yeah, let's run it. Got my dev. We made it. We ran it. Came up pretty decent. And the first bet that it popped up was a UAB bet. So I was like, of course, listen, I'm going to post this. He's posting them all in my community. He's posting them in RAS. He's posting them everywhere. So like, what? I'm not saying that I thought of this genius idea. I have the DMs that he messaged me after it when everybody hated me. It's all good. I took UAB. It lost. Like, it was a minus 54 and it lost. And so when it was posted, everyone was like, oh, like, you're eroding someone's edge. And listen, I get it. I understand where it came from. If you didn't understand the situation, I talked to the guy. The guy was fine with it. We've made amends. And then 2 days ago, I get posted a picture in Vegas, and they're like, "Why are you hanging out with that kid? He takes people's edges." And it's like, dude, it was one decision on one tweet that I've posted over probably 10,000 tweets. I did 5 days of work to make this, and I saw nothing wrong with it. And I talked to the guy after, and I was like, "Listen, I genuinely apologize. I lost, and if I would have won, I'd give you the money. It's fine. Like, it's not about anything other than my first model pop of making this was UAB." And I was like, "Yo, that's my boys. I know this center. I'm betting on this." And it lost. So if they would have scored, it would have been a different talk.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, sometimes people get a lot of hate in the industry, but it is what it is, man. Like, you're doing fine. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, and one more thing on it is, like, genuinely, I apologize to this guy. I don't apologize to any other person who like blaspheme me on my name. I don't care. I apologize to this one guy, and that's all that matters. This is just kind of like a clear the air, because I know it's like the Eminem rap. Like, if I tell you everything that I've done, you can't really like hate on the fact that like you have things that, like, the comments below this is still going to come up, and I just wanted to at least hit it nail on head to try to explain my side of the story before anyone talks in the comments, which is fine. Like, obviously, do whatever you want to do, but I'm at a good spot in my heart, and I feel pretty good about it.
Another one for you. So Discord as a platform has completely blown up over the past couple of years. As I mentioned, I had made my first Discord account because of your Discord. You were the first guy that was building all these bots that I recall. Obviously, you weren't the first guy in the world, but where did that stem from? And, like, you know, why did you choose Discord? Like, I'm always curious about that. Is it still the top spot to be for betting stuff?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, because I just got back from Vegas. I'll bring that into a light in a second. But yeah, I would say that I was the first gambling, and I don't say that as like a flex. I just truly think it, because the engineering kids I was with are all from overseas. They all talk on WhatsApp or Discord. So I found myself on Discord every single day talking to these kids to study thermo, which I still failed. That's a whole different story. But I just found myself on Discord, and they had bots built for like problems, because it's a really easy UI or API to build bots into. And I was like, yo, I can scrape my PayPal feed, and then every month if somebody cancels, instead of me having to go through, cancel them, remove their Discord access, I can have an API do it. Also, like, VIP Discords were the thing, or VIP Twitters were the thing at the time, and that just sucks. Like, you don't get to talk to the people who are genuinely giving you these people. As you know, Johnny, I was 2020. I was 23 years old, 22 years old when 21 years old when I started the Discord. Like, these people truly changed my life while I was just like voicing my opinion on me building player models. So I wanted to be able to talk to them, and I put a stat in our little conversation sheet. But the craziest thing to me is, out of the first 350 people that joined that Discord, 210 of them are still active today, still pay me every month. So I gave them their own chat. They're called OGs. I can tag them. I saw a few in Vegas this week, but like, they have been in it for almost 7 years. They've seen me grow for 23% of my life. They've been able to talk to me. So I just think Discord is a cool community in the sense of, like, I can if you're not fake, you can genuinely meet people who are good. And most people in life are good. I like to believe. But no, I think the interesting thing about Discord is there's companies now that build those bots, and they charge a fee for the back end. I was in Vegas with the company WAP. If anybody's seen WAP, I have no affiliation in them, but I will give them the biggest shout out. The owner of that place is just so forward thinking at 23 years old that it's easy to, like, say that I built that and I could have made a company out of it, and I don't care, because how great of things they're building. And you asked the question of, like, what is next? Like, Discords aren't the end all be all. I came up with that idea one day, and now everybody's just on it. And I'm not saying that I'm some master creator, but there's always going to be better. And I got to see that, again, not a plug, but WAP is building basically a Discord clone that is more specific for entrepreneurs. So, like, if you wanted to have a sports pick community and everyone was there, like, let's say betstamp made a integration with the WAP app, then any community who wanted betstamp integration could pay $1 per user or something and have a betstamp UI within their app. So really cool. I'm not saying it's the future. I have no clue, but I do think there's a lot to improve. Like, I mean, Circa is still manual moves lines, more or less software for any kind of conversation piece. Like, there's so much innovation that needs to be done in this industry, and somebody has to do it. It's not Discord. They don't care. And I do think that it'll be rapidly improving product.
I'm familiar with WAP. I just checked them out. I know they're leaning into sports betting, but potentially I'll reach out to you after. I'll connect with the founder if you do know him there.
He's great.
Okay, random one. I saw Rob put this in the notes. I didn't even see this. It might be a late ad. Do you have any thoughts on the Shohei Ohtani allegations?
1 second before we even get into it. I haven't plugged this on the show yet, but I had mentioned a long time ago that I was going to get a Blue Jays Shohei Ohtani jersey. I didn't have to get one because a good friend of ours, China Maniac, previously on the show, sends me this Blue Jays jersey with Ohtani on the back of it.
We should hang it in the studio.
We're going to get this up in the studio, and I actually have a couple more that I will wear to Jays games as well. I will 100% be that guy. But got sent this one. I'm thinking if Ohtani goes down for a huge gambling scandal, the stuff might actually be worth more. Like, people are scared about
Blue Jays Ohtani.
No, forget about the Blue Jays one. I mean, but like, everyone's in. Anyways, Corby, let's just get I want to just get your thoughts. Generally speaking, I have a million things to say about this Shohei Ohtani situation. Seems like you're digging into some memorabilia over there.
I had to get my Ohtani bat. Got to show y'all. It's upside down. I have an Ohtani bat, and at first I was kind of worried about the valuation of this bat if all of this comes true, but Rob's kind of talked me into the idea that this thing might be worth more, so I got to put this puppy back in the case. But
put it back in the case.
We'll toss it aside for now. It's a lot of effort.
That's nice. That's nice.
Oh man, that's an actually sick piece of memorabilia.
An Ohtani Jays jersey.
Well, the Jays jersey, but the bat.
Yeah, for sure. Ohtani bat's that's a good piece.
Have you been following?
It's like a Pete Rose signed ball.
Well, we joked about this off air, but like getting Pete Rose signed bet slips nowadays. I'm surprised nobody's tried to do this yet.
From the win.
I'm surprised Pete Rose has not himself tried to monetize this.
Signing an old Reds bet slip on him betting on the team.
100%.
I know. Pete Rose, Cincinnati Reds $100,000 losing bet slip.
First person to have it will be Darren Rovell.
Rovell will have it.
Oh my God, Rovell will pay $1.6 million for that.
Yes.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it'll go right next to the Martin Luther King memorabilia that he likes to talk about 1 month of every year. Corby, go ahead. Your thoughts on Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah, I will say I don't keep up with news too much other than like injury stuff, so I really don't know the depth of it. Y'all probably know more than me. I'm curious to listen to y'all, but I will say I saw the video of him playing like what I would assume is the baseball version of quarters. If y'all saw that video, and it was a pretty bad look. Listen, he's my favorite baseball player in quite some time, but that was pretty telling. I'm not gonna lie to you.
What videos? This could be, by the way, you never know the authenticity of these videos now. It could be a deep fake.
No, they could be. This is coming.
Have you all seen this video?
No, I haven't seen it. We got to play it. Producer,
so basically,
Jamie, pull that up.
You basically bounce the ball onto the ledge, and then if it rolls off, you lose, and if it stays on, you win.
Oh, I did see that in the dugout, and he did it with his interpreter. Did he not?
Yeah, it was pretty telling.
You know what? I could see how that could be.
Was he gambling on it? Like,
we don't know. They were laughing about it, having a great time.
He's probably competitive. He's a pro athlete.
And baseball's such a boring sport of like so much downtime. Like, I mean, gambling in the locker room wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know. $4 million is pretty
no
telling.
Way that's coming up on Twitter, Zach.
No,
I gotta call him out.
I saw it on Twitter. I think I saw it.
Zach's Twitter searching Ohtani plays quarters in dugout on Twitter. Exact word. That's not coming up.
Yeah, it's not. Anyways, I did see it, and I honestly thought it was funny. I thought it was pretty funny when I watched it.
So Rob, what are your thoughts? You think he bet on do you think he placed the bets?
My thoughts.
Or should I give a quick recap for everyone?
Sure, go.
Okay, I'll give a quick recap because I dug into this yesterday.
We were digging. We were digging.
So basically, I'll give an unabridged version of what happened. If you follow gambling, it'll be a cool story. So Ohtani, basically what happened is people were investigating some local PPH bookie, big time PPH bookie in LA when Ohtani was on the Angels, and what they found was, I think, again, I'm speculating here, but I think they would have had access to his bank account. They saw big transfers from Shohei Ohtani's actual bank account that went to this guy's bank account. So obviously people started to dig into it. What the hell? Why does this bookie who's receiving $500K wires, multiple $500,000 wires from Shohei Ohtani, what happened? So I believe Ohtani's spokesperson, I'm not sure if it was his agent or if it was like a special spokesperson.
They hired a spokesperson.
For him, for Ohtani specifically, because he doesn't speak English. And his spokesperson comes out and says, all right, Shohei Ohtani, what happened was he didn't place these bets. It was his interpreter who's that guy who was his friend since 2013. He was his interpreter on the Angels. He was his current interpreter on the Dodgers, a guy who's making I think it was $80,000 salary, and he was just betting in large and getting super in debt. Getting super in debt. He was absolute. I don't even know how he was that bad, by the way, because to lose that much, apparently lost 4.5 mil to this PPH bookie. He claims he used to bet on DraftKings, but they limited him. And then he went, no, that's a joke.
That is a joke.
That would be
California,
funny.
so
that's California. Obviously, I'm joking. Yeah. But he bet with this PPH bookie. He lost all this money, and then his story was, and this was through Ohtani's Ohtani's spokesperson, that he went to Ohtani and he had to come clean. And he said, "Listen, I fucked up. I lost this money gambling. I have to pay this debt. I know you're gonna be disappointed in me. Can you help me out?" And then Ohtani said, "Yeah, I'm disappointed in you, but I'm gonna bail you out. I'll pay the money for you." Obviously, Ohtani's got a big contract. He's like, "Sure, I'll send the money." So apparently, this guy and Ohtani both logged into Ohtani's bank together, and they sent $500K wire, which was the most he could send. Over the next couple months, they made whole on the debt, $500K at a time. So that was the story that they went with, and Ohtani's spokesperson that they hired directly gave this story to the media and said, "This is what you got to run with. This is what happened." Right before they're about to air the story, they have some sort of team meeting with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers say, "Listen, this is what happened. There's going to be a big story coming. Everyone just be aware of this in the media. This is what happened. It's involving one of our teammates. Here you go." Apparently, at this point, Ohtani and this guy are like together in the room. Ohtani doesn't speak English, but they're buddy-buddy. They're seen in the dugout playing whatever, laughing it up. Then the guy just randomly reaches out to I think it was ESPN and these media outlets and says, "Hey, that's not the story." Yep. And they're like, "What happened?" And he's like, "Well, technically, we were still just talking to his own interpreter to get through him. We never actually talked to Shohei himself. He doesn't speak any English. We didn't hire a new guy. So this guy's just been lying to us. And like, sorry about this, but this is not the actual story. The real story is this guy just stole the $4 million from Ohtani's bank account. Ohtani had no idea this was happening. He's not involved in gambling. He didn't send any money, and we're going to be going to the authorities." And then they aired that story as the story now. So obviously a lot of fishy business here. Something, I don't know what's going on, but overall, yeah, I'd love to get Rob's thoughts. What do you think actually happened? Because we're in the gambling space. I'd love to comment on this.
I think Ohtani had a very simple press conference where he, made some high-level claims. I didn't bet on the game, whatever. I think his story is most likely to be true.
What, that the guy? So what do you think happened? This guy bet into the book.
Yeah,
the interpreter.
Like there's tons of questions that Ohtani didn't take questions at his presser. So whatever, we're going to be left like wondering what happened in some situations. But some people are like, "Oh, how could this guy possibly get like $4.5 million worth of credit over a few years?" It's like, use your brain. I mean, he probably went to a bookie and said, "Hey, listen, I want to get down. I want to place bets. I want a huge credit limit." The guy's like, "Well, I can't." He's like, "Well, I'm making these bets for my buddy, Shohei Ohtani. We got to keep it on the down low." Like there's many ways where you could get a high credit limit by just lying. It happens in the industry every single day to a bunch of scumbag bettors out there. So this guy could easily get a credit limit in some capacity. He's also making a lot of money with minimal expenses. MLB's Dodgers, Angels, MLB, Dodgers, whatever, covering most of the expenses.
Well, he's making $80,000 and no expenses. That's tough to be losing 4.5 million.
100%. But at the end of the day, it's a very plausible story. Then we have a mutual friend, me and Johnny, who handles like some high profile bank accounts. Let's say in Toronto. I don't know what bank they were using to send wires or whatever, but reached out to this guy, Toronto-based guy, might be very different. And like, "Listen, could this possibly happen?" He's like, "Oh, it happens all the time with like high-profile people where there's money coming in and out of their account, huge amounts. There's no other authorization needed. Most likely there was some sort of 2FA that was required. This would require the interpreter, to have access to Ohtani's phone, maybe computer, whatever, in email in some capacity." But it's not that far-fetched that like your good buddy for the past 10 years, like really good buddy, from what we understand, best friends, would be able to access your email potentially, or something. I think that there's obviously holes in the story and potential flaws that we don't have the answers for. And that whenever we don't have all the info or answers for specific things, there's always going to be speculation as to like whether this is truthful or not. But I think the most likely scenario is that Ohtani is just telling the truth. And in all honesty, I think if he had anything to do with this or had known, I do strongly believe that legal counsel would have advised him to not admit fault from a betting side of things, but possibly in a way where it would have been viewed in the public light as like, okay, like if he came out and said, listen, my buddy came to me, said he was in debt a lot of money. He didn't give me the details. I told him I'd pay off his debt. I did that. My bad. Didn't know where it was going. Okay, that's like a little bit more plausible. He just flat out denied it. And there's going to be exhaustive, thorough investigations into this. I cannot possibly see him flat out denying any of this stuff without that being the story. So my money would be on that. I do agree that there's other possibilities because we don't know all the answers, but to me, and listen, I like Shohei Ohtani too. So
what do you think, Corbie? What do you think happened?
I really have no opinion, but I have a question for both of you. All right, so we're talking about possible situations which happened. Let's forget what we think happened. Now let's do possible outcomes. There's only 3. Do you think A, nothing happens, B, he gets Pete Rosed, or C, he gets Michael Jordan? Which of the 3 do you think is most possible?
I would say nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Nothing happens.
He's too big a star, and if the other guys, I'll tell you my theory because then it'll go into it. This is more of a long shot. I'm speculating a lot here, but just the way the thing went down when they're like, no, wait a second, actually, we didn't hire another translator, and now this guy's just openly coming in and taking the fall and being like, no, yeah, I did lie, I did all this stuff, whatever. That to me,
it's comedic, but it could be like
I know it could be real.
They hired a spokesperson who they didn't have before.
Yeah, why would they hire a spokesperson and he's not a guy that could just communicate with Shohei in his native language automatically?
But he's like, we need to figure out what happened from Shohei. Shohei apparently tells the interpreter, and the interpreter just gives a different story.
It's insane. It's insane that happened.
I mean, it's funny.
What I think honestly happened, which is this would probably be about a plus 850. If I go into detail, it's like a plus 2,000.
Okay.
But likely, I'm thinking. So interpreter placed the bets, got stuck to 4.5, went to Ohtani and said, "Hey, buddy, I messed up. Give me the money, please. Can we send it?" Ohtani said, "You're an absolute moron, but you're my boy. I'm going to bail you out, and I'll send the money." He then sent the money. Knowingly, Ohtani sent the money, and it went to this guy. And he said, "We got to keep this under wraps." The guy said, "Don't worry. I told the guy no one's going to see anything." Story comes to light, and then here's where I think what happens is they're like, "Well, we got to just say what happened because I don't want Ohtani to get in trouble." So this guy goes, "I placed all the bets. Shohei just sent the money to bail me out."
Yeah.
While this is about to go, they look and they're like, the legal team of him, because that's when the legal team got involved at that point. The legal counsel was like, because if you read the story, the legal counsel then took over at this point.
Yes.
And then we're the only ones communicating with the media.
Correct.
Which is obviously a smart thing to do in this scenario. So once the legal counsel took over, they switched it up and they said no. And so what I'm thinking is the legal team was like, even just him sending the money knowingly and not reporting this and sending it to an offshore bookie to cover this is a massive no-no and could open us up to a lot of risk with our contract, with the league, with all these things. The only thing that actually gives us no risk is if we literally say Shohei was robbed. He didn't have anything to do with this. He never actually sent any money. And how could he be at fault if this guy stole money from his bank account and did whatever with it? He has zero knowing of it. And then they went to the guy and they're like, "Yo, you got us in this mess. You're the one who messed up. We have to press charges against you and take this to police. You got to take the fall for Shohei to protect him. And you might end up doing time for this, but we got you on the way out." That's my theory. And I'm like, that's it. And then basically then this guy comes forward now and he's like, "Yeah, I was lying, all this shit. I placed all the bets. Yeah. I stole the money from Shohei. I sent the money from his bank account." Even though, did he send it? He wouldn't rob his buddy. I think it's more likely that he fucked up and then he went through it. Go ahead, Corbie.
I've got one thing on this, and I don't know because I haven't dug into it, but when was this transaction done? Because if it was recent, the thing you were just talking, it makes a ton of sense because like if Shohei had been placing bets, like let's say over a time horizon of forever, then it's not really like the book. Like in my head, why is the bookie being investigated right now? Most importantly, in my head would be like if I was a random bookie who I had been taking some interpreter's bets for forever, and then I get a $4.5 million transaction from Shohei Ohtani. You tell your boys about that. Like that's great. You don't, and then like that tell their boys, tell other people, and then you get investigated. So it's like if there was only one transaction from Ohtani, I think his case of like he had no clue makes a lot more sense. But if it was a constant flow of Ohtani,
it was multiple.
Apparently, it was multiple 500K transactions
yes.
until they cleared it.
We don't know the time frame over which that happened. Listen, I've seen enough players go broke, like NBA players, MLB players, NHL players over their career because they've mishandled money. People have been stealing money from them for over the course of many years that kind of went unnoticed. I don't think it's that far-fetched. I really don't. Like, he's a great baseball player. I don't know that the guy is like a super sharp guy that's paying attention to his bank accounts on a daily basis. Like,
but bro, he signed what is his deal? $900 million?
Yeah.
You signed a $900 million deal, your bank account is being hawked. I don't care who you are. There's somebody in there hawking that account. And if there's not, there's 38 guys lined up trying to hawk that account and give you investment advice.
Yeah.
There's no way that money gets sent. Maybe not no way. I'm not trying to speak in absolutes here. Highly unlikely that money gets siphoned without him knowing or without somebody on his finance team at least knowing. And maybe the interpreter pulled some scheme and then he went back and forth and he lied to him and
because
whatever.
Remember, everybody's communicating through the interpreter.
But think about how much money this guy makes for nobody to be at least hawking his account and be like, yo, where? And I know it's not that much money in 4.5 mil on a whatever, almost $1 billion that he's set to earn, and he hasn't earned all of it yet though. So like 4.5 mil leaving your account, so it's a lot of money in any scenario, even if you have $1 billion.
Pure speculation. We'll move on. But if you're a bank account, you're running a bank in California, probably speaking English, they're going to reach out to Shohei's interpreter whenever there's like some sort of issue with the transaction. They'll be like, hey, you know what? We're noticing some stuff here, and the guy's going to say like, yeah, I talked to Shohei about that. You know, he's loaning money to they put loan.
That's another thing that seems a little bit.
Yeah, but he's just loaning money to a friend and whatever, and like, all right, that's what Shohei, like, you know what I'm saying? You know how it can get lost in translation? I don't know. Weird. What I will say, I feel very confidently that this will manifest itself again, like 7 to 10 years down the line. Like, even if it gets wiped under the rug now, this interpreter guy will change his story down the road or anything for attention. Like,
no, it's his boy, bro. He respects him. He'll take the fall. He'll take the fall here, but he was the one who he was the one who got him in the mess. That's where it's different. I wouldn't consider him taking a fall for Ohtani. He got in the mess, bro. He placed the bets. I don't think anyone thinks Shohei placed the bets.
I think lots of people think that.
I
think lots of people believe that Shohei. There's images of him at like college basketball games now.
I do believe it was confirmed that none of the bets were on MLB. But
correct. It was international soccer bets. International soccer bets.
If we see Shohei start watching some international soccer,
well, I'm sure people have been scouring tape forever to see if Shohei was at like any soccer.
There's gonna be him on his phone in the dugout sweating a game. That would be all-time evidence. That would be all time. Anyways, we do have the tweets that trigger us.
Let's hit it, Zach.
Hit it, Zach. Hit it.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
I've never seen you mad.
I get peeved. Why are you in such a bad mood?
What do you care?
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
All right, tweets that trigger us here. Got like a trifecta that I really wanted to get to here. And Corbie, I want to get your thoughts on this. This video.
Y'all been stepping up this little side graphic. Sorry to interrupt you. This is fancy. Do they see this on the screen?
Zach,
they do.
Zach is nodding yes that they see this. Yeah,
nice.
Zach,
I
will say, Zach makes these incremental improvements over time that we don't even know are happening. But then I watch back the YouTube video and I'm like, man, what Zach? Excellent effort this week. I don't offer to pay him more or anything. I just say excellent effort. Great job, Zach. But yeah, we get whatever. I don't see it. You see it, Corbie.
I've got it. I'm gonna have to rewatch the episode for when I just called Zach Jamie about 15 minutes ago. I can't tell if he was visibly upset or not. I'll have to look it back in the episode.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he was. Anyways, I was visibly upset when I saw this tweet. It's from the Bleacher Report betting account. Creighton wins and favorites go 8-0 today. Fire legendary tags Ryan Ribeiro.
Before we watch this, was this 8-0 money line or spread?
I believe he bet every money line favorite in the round of 32.
Okay.
And went 15-1. Is this the video, Zach? Can we play this video? Yeah, let's play this video.
Underdog money line losers. You thought you hacked the system. You can't hack the system. I am the fucking system. Come on, let's go. Boom. Come on.
Corbie, I'm sure you remember where you were when you had your first winning day, just like this guy.
Yeah, I wasn't wearing Mets clothes. I know that for sure.
Okay, listen. I can't handle stuff like this. It really, really aggravates me when people go over the top for like a winning betting day, and this guy bet 8 favorites. I'm not saying that like there's no skill involved with winning favorite bets, because there is. You can find favorites that are missed. You want 8 favorites. I am the system will go down in infamy. We might as well get that on our soundboard going forward, Zach, as well.
I am the system. That's a funny one.
I don't know. I think it's fine to celebrate your bets. Don't get me wrong. You're betting on sports. There should be some emotion attached to it. This, to me, was like way over the top. Way over the top. And personally, based off of my experience, not a rule of fact, but based off of my experience, these bets probably meant significant. They meant something to him to react this way. Like, people usually go nuts like this when they don't experience it regularly. Like, I'm sorry, this is just speaking from experience. Or like this is like some serious money that he, like maybe like back against the wall type of money that he threw down on the game and they happened to win. Just my 2 cents. I hate this stuff. It really bothers me. There's more Bleacher. They turned this into a whole thing. And because I saw this one video, I just kept getting served up like every other one in the sequence.
Poor guy. Okay, Corbie. So based on just this video, right? So you see a bucket, which presumably has maybe some alcohol. You see a Fiji water on the table. This guy at a backwards cap and a Mets quarter zip and shorts at a sports book or some sort of venue with a bunch of papers on the table. Just based on this alone, give me a percentage likelihood that this guy's a winning bettor.
99. Listen, this
he's
is
a
my
winning
guy.
bettor?
Go back up. Look at this backwards hat in the sports book. Listen, you got the shorts on. You got a little bit of breeze going. Everybody knows the sports book gets a little hot in there. He has the sleeves rolled up. He knows what he's doing. He comes in. He is the system, Johnny. See, what you forget is you think you are the system, and you're not. This guy, and we'll have a video in a minute. He is the look. He even trimmed his stash for this moment. He knew I'm going to be on video when I go 8-0 today. But yeah, I agree. This kind of seems like the guy who, if he went 7-1 here, probably goes home, probably drinks a few too many beers, upset with life. You know, not going to the gym today because he lost a bet. But I'm glad he won. Listen, at the end of the day, though I hate these kind of things, I never want the other side to win. So at least you went 8-0, and I did not, because I did not bet all favorites. So his system's better than my system.
He's throwing some shade at a friend of ours here who is doing the whole underdog system. He's been $1,000 on every single underdog. Maddie, if you're listening, Maddie Betts. Sorry about this year, but you cleaned up the last 2 years, and we still got time. We still got time this year. A lot of favorites still in.
I think underdogs outright are still up. I could be wrong there,
but not in the round of 32. Not
round of 32. But overall, I think up. I could be wrong there, but there was a few really big upsets.
There was a few. I'm not sure. Are they up still? They got absolutely decimated last Saturday, Sunday for sure.
There was more in this the BR betting thread. I think there's a couple more. Like,
all right, what else we got here?
Well, I mean, like, you know, he's now hit 10 favorites.
This is where it gets good.
What a run! But look at this T-shirt that he's wearing now.
Hey, as Johnny says,
I'm him after being on all faves.
Hey,
I mean, listen, I like that.
Listen,
go ahead.
As Johnny says, 10 straight favorites in a row. That means he lost his 11th, huh?
That's it.
No, unless it's still active.
Well,
if it's still active.
Let's see the next
The
one.
cigar has me thinking he
Baylor money line did
15 and 1.
What a run. But this actually triggered me more than the other video. From the beginning, Zach, this is giving a kiss to the sports book. I can't explain why things make me upset in life. I can't. There's just certain
He's got
things.
a backpack that could be filled with cash.
Could be $5,000 in cash.
It could be,
Simon Hunter style.
50 grand.
It could be 50 grand. But
In a duffel. That's not
This
bad.
is the kind of guy that takes those winning slips and goes and puts them in a slot machine.
I mean, it could be.
No, the best part,
kiss.
listen, Zach, scroll up real quick. The best part about all of this is I said I don't bet March Madness. Out of all the games on this board, I'll let y'all have one guess in the game that I bet that day.
Baylor money line?
Oh, 100%.
No good. No good.
You caused this. Could have been 16-0 if it wasn't for you, Corbie. Honestly,
I know.
what
I have
epic mush
in my
job.
brackets. In my brackets, I have the Bears to the championship too. It's just quite the unfortunate look here.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, keep an eye on this guy for future episodes. I'd love to keep an eye on what he's doing.
Ryan, listen, I'm sure the guy's not actually an asshole or
Hit his
or
profile.
douche or
Hit
whatever.
his profile, Zach.
You know, I just really, it really bothered me. Honestly, all of this could have just been done in the sake of content, where like they just went in and like, yeah, we're gonna bet all faves and you see what happens. And if that happened, it makes me even more upset. I hate stuff just for the sake of content. I like real bettors that don't react like they just, won the World Series of Poker or whatever this guy was doing over a year. He did the "Who do you think you are? I am." Pete Weber Jr. Yeah.
No, he did not. Rob did not just call that as Zach pulled it. That is an all-timer.
Oh my.
No, he did not. Just Zach, you got to explain what just happened.
I scroll. You got to go to the YouTube too. If you're watching on podcast, at least go to the YouTube here. I scrolled down on the screen where you can see followed by one follower that we follow.
That's follows
him.
us.
And
We're gonna have
but
to
wait.
talk to our social guy. I'll tell you that.
No, but then continue.
And then continue on his top tweet. Heading out of Vegas, 15-1 run on the favorites these past 2 days. Insane run. That's all for now. And Pete Weber.
Yeah, he's
Hate
got a
me or
gif
love
of.
me.
He's,
You watched. That's all you could do. Thank you.
he's got a gif
Dude.
of Pete Weber. Yeah.
As Rob was saying, he just pulled a "Who do you think you are? I am." Zach scrolls down on the screen and he's right there on this guy. Just tweet him. That is all time. But hey, listen, respect. Keep betting. Congrats on the wins. We don't actually, we're not actually about hate here. It's just it's all jokes, man. Wish you the best. And obviously he's writing content for BR. And that is more of an entertaining company that wants entertaining betting content, and he nailed it on the head. There you go. We're talking
It's
about
true.
it, and a lot of people are going to like it. So congrats, bro.
Yeah, and listen, I'm the crotchety old man that just hates everything nowadays. That one really bothered me. At Awful Announcing. So this is a quote by Reese Davis. You know what? Some would call this wagering, gambling. The way you've sold this, I think what it is a risk-free investment. ESPN's Reese Davis after an ESPN bet segment with Aaron Kate Dolan. Let's play the audio for this, Zach. Honestly, it's pretty long, but maybe we can start in the middle here.
You can look at the spread, you can look at player. We like to go off what we just saw. So for Northwestern, for example, they
Telling me you don't want
77
Dolan's
points on
breakdown?
Florida Atlantic, but
Well, it's just irrelevant to the.
They
I mean,
in overtime. So I expect this to be a slow
a breakdown.
game all around.
It's a breakdown of the
Defenses
game.
on both sides of the ball. And so if you look at a team total, although it seems low at 60.5, I'm going to go under there.
You know what? Some would call this wagering, gambling. I think the way you've
It's
sold
sweating.
this, I think what it is risk-free investment. That's the way to
Okay.
look at it.
Positive way.
Aaron Dolan from ESPN Bet.
Why would he say that?
Okay, what is going through his head in order to say that? I mean, nothing's going through his head. Secondly, listen, Aaron Kate Dolan's put in a very bad spot there because she has to react on the fly. Probably would have been a great spot to immediately say that's not what this is, especially with the push around responsible gaming nowadays. Tough on her. I'm not blaming her in any stretch of the imagination. This is a pretty brutal clip, but it's stuff like this that really bothers me. You do content, Corbie. Obviously, we do content. And the thing is, all of the betting content, whether it's substantially different from one another, gets kind of lumped into the same bucket, no matter what, period. So when you see stuff like this happen, it just ends up being it's like people who, when the sideline reporter situation was coming out, in the NFL, and people were just like making up sideline reports. Weren't even talking to the players. It just came out, and like all the other sideline reporters were offended. I understand why, because it's like it's just such a negative reflection of everything that they're doing. Like, how ignorant do you have to be with like this responsible gaming push nowadays to make a comment like that?
It was so weird. Like I talked about, I don't really pay attention to news or anything like this. Don't really care usually, but I saw this too, and the first thought in my head is like, these massive media corporations have prompters. Like, was this on the prompter? There's no way it was on the prompter. It would have been shot down instantly. Also, like, Erin, though she has opinions that, like, obviously, I mean, it's really hard to win in gambling. I don't expect her to win, and I do think at times she gives good opinions. Like, I'm not saying she wins at all, but there are times that she's decent. She was put in the worst situation, and I think her response is probably what I would have said. Like, she's like, a sweat. Like, it's going to be a sweat. They scored 58 points. She had under 60.5. She was as correct as you can be. It's a sweat of a bet. Like, no one wants to bet under 60 points in the round of 32, and she just got put in the worst situation. But my thing is, like, as a host, and you guys know, but like as a host, your job is to toss softballs for the people who don't, like, all they're doing is giving an analysis that is just not as enjoyable to the ear to hear the whole time. You want a good break and a softball toss. This is just like the exact opposite of a softball toss. Like he put her in such a precarious situation. Yeah. Felt bad. It was so awkward.
You know what happens if this bet actually loses?
Lawsuit.
Dude, you telling me you wouldn't have a precedent in a court of law?
I wouldn't.
You don't think someone could argue?
I'm not that guy, but yeah, maybe someone would.
I'm not saying I would sue ESPN Bet or anything like that. But if somebody comes on air and says, like, and you can't even really tell it's a joke.
Is this technically an ESPN Bet segment, like sponsored by ESPN Bet?
Well, it's on
the bottom right.
It's the bottom right, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, that's really not good, though. Because, like, all the responsible gaming stuff, like, they had to ban the term free bet in the majority of states because they said, hey, it's not a free bet. You could lose your money. They had to rebrand it to bonus bet. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously, he shouldn't have said that, but it is what it is. We don't harp on it. Hopefully, he doesn't move forward. Obviously, nothing Aaron Dolan could have done there as well. All right, what else we got here?
We got our my
Rob's old buddy.
We're gonna skip over this one, Zach. We'll move on. All right, I used to produce for Gabriel Morency back in the day at Sports Rage. Duquesne up 38-30 at the half. I actually did not like them. Thought BYU would probably beat them by 12 or 13, but it was at King James. LeBron. That changed my mind. Hashtag March Madness. This is a serious tweet, by the way. Has anyone actually followed LeBron James's betting picks since this guy started to come up?
Is he still going with the betting picks? I thought he was just NFL. He's giving college basketball now?
I mean, you gave Morency a winner.
I hope he's not giving college ball, man. Like, his son's currently playing college ball.
For what the hell is happening?
No, hold on. I don't know if he gave this out as a pick. Just, I'll find out quickly here, but I don't know if he gave it out as a pick. He gave the Duquesne team shoes. He outfitted them with LeBron's shoes.
The coach of Duquesne is LeBron's old high school coach. The coach who's and he was retiring this year, and the coach who's taking his spot is LeBron's old high school teammate, is why he's like pro Duquesne.
Yeah.
I need to get more context on these things before I actually get upset about them. That's what I'm learning in life. I see stuff and it makes me really upset. Either way, I gotta say it's probably one of the worst handicaps I ever heard in my life, even if it won. LeBron James gave them shoes, and that was enough.
Hey, Rob, you know what would make you GOAT status for this podcast? You got to get LeBron James on. DM him. We got to get Braun on, Zach. We got to get Braun on to give his NFL 5. See if we can make it happen. I'll DM him too. Let's all DM Braun.
All right.
Everyone here that's listening or watching, shoot a message over to LeBron James on Twitter.
No, honestly, we should save it. Good
luck.
Save it for NFL season because he might.
Don't even DM him. Just start responding to all his tweets saying, LeBron, when are you going to be on Circles Off? LeBron, Herney, you're going to be on. Everyone, just do us that favor, and let's get LeBron James on the Circles Off.
If we get Braun, that'd be absolutely massive. But
I will change my profile picture to just Circles Off and tweet only Circles Off stuff for the rest of my days.
LeBron, great picks, man. You should be on Circles Off. That's it. At Circles Off HQ, whatever you can do to get Circles Off. All I want is LeBron to very briefly look into us and be like, that's all I really want. I just want him to take notice of circles off.
Yeah, that's fair. He might. You
never know.
We got 2 more, I think, and then we'll get into our final questions.
Okay, this was more of a thread. Fez.
Oh, I didn't even see this one.
Okay, so Brad.
Oh, sorry, never mind. I did. Go ahead.
Brad Powers calls out Steve Fezzik for releasing college basketball total.
Look at that pick of Fez, by the way.
Oh, the pre.
Before we get into it,
the pregame pick of Fez is hilarious. Like caught like half mouth open or whatever.
Why doesn't Fez say something about that pick? Like,
I think he might like it.
He's lost a lot of weight too. Like,
yeah,
he definitely needs to update that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he looks good.
He's looking better now.
He's got this pick.
No, he's definitely way lighter than that now. Yeah, so he releases a play in the middle of the night. Technically 12 midnight Pacific time, but 3 a.m. Eastern time. So Brad Powers kind of calls him out on it. He responds, totals 164 at midnight. So you think it's better to give out 158 under at 7 a.m. because most won't get the 164. And if we go down to the bottom here, he says, if I don't release it, none of my subscribers will get it. It's better that some will get it. I have strong opinions on this in the pick selling industry. I agree with what Fezzik is saying in principle here. It's better that some of his followers can get the pick in at 3 a.m. at under 164. Even if it's 5%, if he's giving a bet that's going to close 158, he's giving under 164, that's fine. You cannot count this in your record. This is my strong, vehement opinion on this. This cannot, a pick released at 3 a.m. Eastern time, when market's not matured. I don't even know if it was just at one sportsbook or not. I don't know the facts of that. This cannot, and this is not just Fez, it's anyone in the space. We have to get to widely available prices across the industry and at reasonable times. Because what good is that? If you're going to go and buy Fez's packages after the fact and you're going to see that game on his record, it's going to look like a win. Some people would never have had a chance to get that. So what's the point of it being included in the record?
Fair, but I mean, some people still could have got it. Like that's probably what 3 a.m. Eastern time. They're saying he's in Vegas. He gave it all midnight. What if he has people on different time zones? They could have.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that they couldn't.
I'm not against Fez on this one. Fez, I think. Listen, you release it. Yeah, sure. Maybe you exclude it from the record or something, or just have a caveat saying that overnights are going to be sporadic and you might get them or you might not. Yeah. That would be, you can keep it in an overnight record. That'd be fine as well, I think.
Well, yeah. Corbie, thoughts?
Yeah, I have a pretty broad opinion on this. I almost fully agree with Rob. Like the main thing here is if, like, let's say you're going to track it, obviously, no. If this was something that was available to only one sportsbook, again, no. I think one thing even betstamp could maybe add or implement is this idea of, like, what is a fair market price to track? Like, many times I just, like, I'll bet at a book, but I don't choose it as my tracking because I want to have what was fair. Like maybe 158.5 and I'll track 159 because more books for 159, 159.5. So, like, even people just sniping lines from the sake of pick selling, obviously you need to be getting the best price, but from the sake of pick selling, like, you don't need to just be one off. Also, the big thing here, if he's not tracking it, I don't mind at all. I bet a lot of things that I just put in unofficial. I have like a fully different tab for unofficial, like Academy Awards. I'm sure y'all saw like the Godzilla thing recently, and like everyone can bet that. Do we believe it's real? I don't know, but like, never in my life would I track that, and I know people who did. And I'm like, dude, like, if you're tracking that kind of stuff, first off, you're playing a game that's just a losing proposition for everyone. Don't track futures, don't track anything that, like, maybe someone who only has a sample size of a month, 2 months, your time horizon isn't always a course of a season. So there's a way to do it. But the main thing for me is, like, why did this move 64 to 58 overnight from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m.? Was it because you bet it? Like, was it because you win, you send it to 5%? Were those 5% betting $2,000 on DraftKings? Then at 3 a.m., that's why they moved the line 4 points. And it's like, maybe if you just slept in and bet it right before the Ras Boys and Dr. Bob at 8:30 Central, then you'd be fine. And so it's all a give and take game.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. So you mentioned Barry Horse earlier in the interview. You said Barry, but you're referring to Barry Horse. and we've talked. He has his Telegram, right?
He's retired now, I think. He's retired.
He's retired. He's retired
on the pump.
Well, the Bitcoin pump, it's over. There's no more picks.
He's going to be posting stuff still, just not major market baseball. I talked to him.
We're just joking.
Oh, from the Bitcoin. Yeah, this man, he's been playing golf every day for he's doing well for himself.
He's living the life. We're recording podcasts. He's out on the golf course.
I asked him, so very short spiel because I know you're going somewhere with this. I asked Barry probably 4 years ago, right as COVID happened. I was like, Bitcoin just dropped 20,000. It's at 6K. What do you think the entry point is? And he responded, I have it still. It was like when we barely talked. We still talk, but not a ton. He said anything under 250,000 is a max whale. And I was like, that seems a bit. It's $6,000. That's a bit egregious there, but okay. I bought some because of it, so I'm happy with it.
It's very funny. But he was giving out plays on his Telegram, and he would basically take all the sharp sportsbooks lines, right? Pinnacle, Chris.
He did
Circa.
third best available of Penny, Chris, Circa, Bet Online, which is extremely fair. Because that line should be available to someone who's betting. If you have the third best of those, then you should have one out that at least has that price.
I honestly don't even care if people give out lines that are like widely available, whether that's like DraftKings, FanDuel, big recreational book. It doesn't even bother me because so many people have access to those books that I think that's fair. I hate when people use best line available to give out picks. I think people should be using best line available when they're betting. 100%. But I hate when that's used for giving out picks. I think there should probably be like some sort of consensus number we'll figure this out one day. We'll figure it out.
Betstamp, make one. Consensus number.
We could.
For release.
If this was 2020, this would be out tomorrow.
Corbie's still giving you ideas from 4 years ago, man. Look at this.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
All right. Final one here. Rufus Peabody. Channeling my inner Fezzik Sports, and he tweets a picture of two huge money line favorites, UNC minus 46.50, Tennessee minus 25.28. Both of these bets risk over $125,000 to win $3,000 and $5,000. He says he's channeling his inner Fezzik Sports. For those who don't understand, Steve Fezzik, known for taking big favorites, lost Purdue in the tournament last year. He did win the big favorites he took this year as well. Got a lot of work to do to catch up to that Purdue money line. But Rufus. The timing of this tweet, which was at 5:57 p.m.
After UNC already won.
After one of the two teams on this huge favorites list had already won their game. That is a big no-no.
Look at the top comment. Easy to share that big UNC one after it won. Fezzik Sports would never pass post.
Honestly, he wouldn't. That's what Fezzik would not do. He would not have put this in after the fact. I bet this team or whatever. You can't do that. If you're gonna show off that you bet a huge favorite or whatever, you got to do it pre-game. I would highly suggest you never do that. It's no-win situation. No-win situation.
Yeah, the only thing worse than tweeting it before the game is tweeting it after it already wins.
Somehow he took what was the absolute worst, the pre-game huge money line favorite tweet, and Rufus made it worse. He made it worse with the pass post minus 4,650. Also, were you
going to say that it's on a Google sheet?
It's not even a...
So I know why he did it, because obviously he didn't just bet 139,000 win 3,000 on one book. It's obviously across a variety of shops, and he wanted to sum up his position. It's probably how he looked at his positions. But yeah, you can't do that. That guy burned you that one time.
Yeah, I tweeted
he got you good
results on a spreadsheet, I believe.
Yeah, Rob tweeted all his NHL results. He's like, well, this is actually my record this season, buddy, just to kind of shut a guy up. But it was just a Google sheet. And then the guy responded saying, nice, congrats on the season. This is my bank account balance. And then he put an Apple Notes thing, and he just typed out 1 billion. And then he screenshotted it to Rob. And that guy had the W of the day, W of the week.
I am going to say, no matter what, in the past, when I've actually tweeted bet slips, people just accuse me of faking them somehow. I tweeted some big golf winners at Pinnacle before. I tweeted a week I had on Metallica once that was 100K plus or whatever. People just assume it's all bullshit. Anyways, this tweet should have never existed.
We're just joking around. He did bet him. He did win both the bets, and I do believe obviously Rufus got that size down. We're not accusing him of faking the screenshots. By the way, we're just poking fun.
But you know what? Go ahead, Corbie. I know you have some thoughts here.
Yeah, I've got two short things on this. I actually saw Rufus that day in Vegas. It was the first time I've ever met him in person, so it was cool. Rufus is watching this. He's a super nice guy. But,
I can assure you he's not watching it. Don't worry about that.
Cool. But listen, I didn't think he knew who I was. I'm still pretty sure he didn't, but shook his hand and made simple conversation. But no, he didn't even tell us he had listen. I was at the sportsbook. I would have went and bet some minus 3,000 at the sportsbook, get a free beer basically. But no, he didn't even tell us. So I'm salty. I didn't even know about this action.
If you had run into him again afterwards, he would have told you that he won them, though.
I would have asked him for a free beer, and then I wouldn't have minded.
Rufus would not have given you a free beer.
Maybe. Here's another problem. Here's another problem I have. I've done this before. Listen, you can find all sorts of tweets that I'm certainly hypocritical when it comes to a lot of this stuff. When I see someone else tweet it dawns on me that I've done this before and it's a bad look. I shouldn't do it again. The bet amounts are entirely unnecessary here. Completely unnecessary. 0. He could have just put channeling my inner Fezzik, already won UNC minus 46.50. I'm betting Tennessee minus 25.28. We don't need to know that he risked that amount of money to win. You know what I'm saying? It's I like Rufus. It's a little bit of a show-off move.
To be fair, though, click the screenshot again, Zach.
Let's click that screen.
We're assuming that that's his risk and win amount, but entirely could just be random numbers. Look, UNC 0. We don't know.
UNC 0 is the spread. That means that
that's money line. Of
it's
course.
money line.
Yeah. Well, you're assuming that means money line. There's no headers on
there's
there.
no column headers. I could be total.
There's no columns.
I apologize if I completely got this wrong, but to me, seems pretty evident what this is. The bet amounts aren't necessary. They're not.
Yeah, but good win. Good win nonetheless.
$8K for Rufus in the pocket. Didn't even buy Corbie a beer. What a fucking scumbag. What a scumbag.
Final questions for you, Corbie. I know you've listened to the episode before, so we're going to do your plus EV, minus EV move of the week. Brought to you by the Hammer Betting Network.
or Pinnacle. They pay
Brought to you by Pinnacle Sportsbook.
All right, yeah, so plus EV, I had a serious one, and as this conversation kind of went along, I'm going to go to the way less serious one. Find a food that you enjoy and eat it every single day as long as you can until you don't enjoy it. Because, listen, to take the worry of what you're going to eat next and take that potential off your mind, I think I've talked to you about this before, Johnny, but I eat Chick-fil-A almost 3 times a day as fast as I can. It takes me about
3 times a day?
3 times?
Yeah, I eat it.
I love Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A is unbelievable, but I heard they're actually switching to no longer antibiotic-free chicken. Buddy, 3 a day. 3 a day.
We're gonna be swapping food again. Then it's been the go-to for
Sorry,
some
was
years
this your
now.
plus EV or minus EV? I'm not.
Plus. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be fast food. Just a food that you enjoy. I know people who eat rice and chicken every single day.
What's your go-to order? You get deluxe.
Number one, no chicken sandwich, no pickles. Add sweet tea. I'm in the South.
Yeah. All right.
As simple as it gets, man. I'm 27. I can still play these games. I go to the gym after I eat it. Listen, I can play these games. So 3 years, 5 years from now, I probably will have to switch it up to some healthy alternative. But for now, listen, we're having a good time.
What a humble brag.
Did you get it in person or quick Uber Eats, Postmates, whatever you got?
No, get it in person. It's a 1 minute walk, and then you walk more to the gym, and you just knock it all out in the same 30-minute session.
It's fresher if you get in person. It doesn't come in the delivery package. The bun gets soggy. You got to get Chick-fil-A fresh.
Hey, that's up there for controversial plus EV move of the week. Mm-hmm. And I think we will have.
We're gonna have to let the people decide down below whether this is actually plus EV or minus EV.
It's plus EV if you saving time on it and not having to worry about that is plus EV. Maybe eating Chick-fil-A 3 a day. That just seems outrageous.
It's less the food; it's more the idea. But I listen. I do eat it. My little sister, she visited, and she's right there. She can attest that 3 times a day it does in fact happen.
Wow, crazy! It is delicious. It is delicious. All right, and then you have a minus EV, negative EV.
Yeah, listen. I was hoping that was the softball, and I'd be impressed by that because the minus EV that's the most controversial. Listen, this is the worst one I've got. This is a recent development for me, but the minus EV is golf. Listen, I know y'all play golf.
And let's end this program now.
Listen, I've been training for 2 months. I'm awful. If I do good, it was expected. If I do bad, I'm just pissed off for the rest of the day. It's expensive to play. It's hard to play. It's usually bad weather, so you're just going in the wind. It is a net lose sum. Like either you're good and it was expected, or you're bad and you're pissed for the rest of the day. And then you go home and train because you're mad that you did bad. And listen, I've been doing this for 2 months. And I mean, obviously, not a long time horizon. I'm awful. Like I could not do anything. And I spend every single day at this point. Like in my free time, I'm like, oh, let's go grab the 7-iron and practice. It doesn't help. So I take that as my minus EV. I'm wasting time practicing an old man sport.
Wow. It's okay. We'll
give him this?
We'll edit that out. It's okay. I'm not giving it to him.
Give him this here for a second here. Listen, I think golf's great.
I already know what you're going to say.
Facts. He spit 100%
and you're going to tell me
there.
that like you could practice golf, but there's no transferable skills from golf to anything else.
No. I think golf is one of the best sports to play. One day when I have a kid, straight into golf. Yeah. Because, dude, you want your kid to be good at golf. He's going to sling business deals on the course, number one. Number two, if you do make it,
you hope he's not slinging drugs.
Tons
on the
of
course.
money. I hope not. Tons of money if you do make it. And you could play it for a long time. I think golf's awesome. But
I will say,
he did spit
I'm not
facts.
stopping.
Corbie spit all facts, bro. This guy's 100% correct. You do suck. You do go out there and suck. When you suck, you're pissed. When you're good, it was expected. I can't fault that.
I agree with all of that. That doesn't change my love for the game and this
absolute
slander that he's put on it.
I'm going to continue playing A. B, there's a course here that I have to get good at. So I'm not saying I'm giving up, but the general consensus of like, oh, you should get into golf once you've reached the age of you can't go play basketball every day. It's the worst because like you go from being pretty good at something to like, hey, I should pick up golf, and man, I'm probably very last on the totem pole there.
Wait. Corbie, did you just start playing? Like you just started right now?
Okay. It's so much better.
It's going to get better.
It's way better. And once you cut out the Chick-fil-A and the greasy hands that are trying to grip the club, it'll get even better than that too.
We'll have to work on that because I'm struggling in that department.
It'll change.
Zach,
I don't know how.
Go ahead.
I was going to get the next question.
Okay, 1 second. Make a quick note. This can air. I don't care if it airs or not. 2 Men in a Truck, the movers who care. That's who we need to find as the sponsor for this segment. Plus EV, minus EV, move of the week by 2 Men in a Truck, the movers who care.
Why?
I don't get it.
Plus EV move, man. Plus EV move of the week.
Not moving your own stuff,
bro. That's outrageous.
You think that's
outrageous?
Don't you?
That was
I'm glad Zach's with me on this. That was a stretch.
Don't you know that like when you're watching a highlight show, it's like the upset of the day brought to you by what's always it's like
Chick-fil-A.
Pepto-Bismol. Upsets, pure upset.
The fucking Moderna boost of the game.
Boost of the game, yeah. Brought to you by Moderna. All right.
They had that in the NHL. They had that in yeah.
That's you're always looking for something relatable.
Okay, Corbie, if you could, like, I know roughly how old you are, so I don't know what you can say the age if you want, but if you can go back 5 years, so it would be a meaningful 5 years, to a previous version of yourself, what advice would you give?
Yeah, we were joking around. I kind of wanted to end it on at least a little bit of a serious note. It's like 5 years ago, I was the kid and still am. So this is advice to current self too. But the guy who plays on his phone or is on screen, my on screen time is probably 20 hours a day, which is just unhealthy. I watch all the basketball. I'm sure you guys are in the same boat.
It's a lot of porn, Corbie. 20 hours a day, man. Jesus.
Somebody's got to pay the bills. But I'm here, and my takeaway for 5 years would be life's so much bigger than business. Life's so much bigger than anything. You can look at your phone, and the only thing, the revelation that turned this in my head is like my brother. I've talked to Johnny about my brother before, but he owns a business. It's doing very well. It's grown year over year, a substantial amount of money. And he had a kid last year. And the day he had his kid, I saw him flip from someone who, like, the ultimate grinder, the guy who wants to make this business $100 million, to he's actively currently looking to sell his company because he wants to spend the first 10 years of his life with his kid. And like, it opened my eyes to like, because you can make your business 40 million doesn't make it worth 40 million. Like, there are more important things in life. And so it's a serious note to end a very fun show on, but like, I think that is advice that at current I could still take. So I think it's a very important thing that has kind of hit me recently.
Well said. Agree with a lot of what you said there, even though I made the porn joke in between. Apologize. Yeah, what the hell? It's a very serious topic, and I inserted myself there. Unfortunately, we can't even cut it out because it's just like right in the middle of you talking.
No,
but
It's
all
perfect.
right.
It was a fun show. I told you guys I have nothing to sell, no affiliation here. I wanted to have fun because I like both of you. So it kind of hits both nail and head. We're good.
All right. Sounds good.
Corbie, you're the man. Thank you, bro, for joining. Really appreciate it. For those listening, drop a comment on the plus EV, minus EV. We got to hear your thoughts on that. Like and subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. Please also DM LeBron James on Twitter or Instagram.
Message him, however. Get in touch with LeBron James if you know him in some capacity. We need to make this happen.
If you know Bron, even better, shoot him a text. We would be able to record anytime. We'll even go to him, record in person if we're going to record with Bron. And we do 5-minute segment, 10-minute segment, whatever he's willing to do, we can do.
Wait, we should
let me talk to my info guys.
Who?
Jonte Porter.
Jonte Porter, we cannot be getting on the podcast.
That's not going to happen.
Next.
That's
Jonte
unfortunately
Porter,
not going to happen.
Yeah.
We'll get into more of that as the details come out.
We should get Pete Rose, though.
I'll try.
DM Pete Rose and LeBron James.
Rob, if I get Pete Rose, will you give me a raise?
We'll talk.
Talk to Kanish.
I'm not going to commit to anything, but I will say Pete Rose put out a video. I don't know if anyone saw on the Shohei Ohtani situation, and somebody asked him about it, and he's like, if I could go back in time, I would have got myself an interpreter. Not direct quote, but something along those lines.
That's amazing.
Very funny video from Pete Rose. Yeah, we'll get Pete Rose in the mix as well.
Anyone else?
If we can get Sean Perry on minus the fee that he wants us to pay for his appearance, that would work too. I think that would be a big hit.
We got to still Sorry, go ahead, Corbie.
Perry was supposed to be in Vegas with us, and he that same fee applied to when you get a free Vegas trip too. So he did not come to the free dinner for us because he wanted a fee to go.
Really?
Well, he's a big dude, man.
We still need to get on this list. We need to get on this program, which is going to be tough. But Braun, number 1. Mickelson, number 2.
Yeah.
Billy Walters is doing podcasts now, so there's no reason we can't get him.
Have you ever heard
Zach?
We could get Billy Walters. No disrespect to Billy Walters. Great better or whatever. Have you ever heard an interesting Billy Walters interview? Can we turn...
Well, I've only heard 2 interviews. One was live. Yeah. That Spanky conducted, Spanky. Not the best.
Apologies, buddy.
It's a good event, and we'll be there again this year.
Good effort, bud. Good effort.
And the Rogan one, not the best.
Yeah,
not the best.
Could we get something out of Billy Walters?
I think we could. We'll ask him the right questions.
Yeah, because Ravel did one with Billy Walters. I
didn't even watch that one, but
believe me, you don't need to.
Okay, I think we would ask Billy the right questions.
Yeah,
and get some stuff out of him. We'd get the hard hitting knowledge that people want.
I would come in and I'd be calling him Mr. Walters, just like Alan Boston.
Okay.
You can't call him Billy. It's a mad disrespect to that guy. That's why he doesn't give a good answers. People call him Billy.
You call him Mr. Walters?
Mr. Walters. I got potentially a big... I don't want to tease it, though. I got a potential big guest from the sporting world coming. I'm trying to make... I hope it happens. I honestly think it's a 50-50. It would be punching, there'd be no reason for him to do this podcast. Let's just put it that way.
Okay,
but it might happen.
From a major athlete.
Major athlete.
Active or not active?
Active, major athlete. Everyone would recognize.
Does he have gambling controversies?
No. There's a very good way to tie in what he does to the process of a bettor. I've been thinking about this a long time. If he turns me down, I'm going to slander his name on air.
Oh, my goodness. I don't even know who this is, but we will, hopefully it's someone good, and hopefully we pull the trigger on it. But everybody, thanks for listening. This has been episode 147 of Circles Off Sports Betting Podcast, presented by Pinnacle Sports here on the Hammer Betting Network. See y'all next week.